Hey, man.
Hey.
I came to the realization about something the other day. I was talking to someone who holds a 9-to-5 job, and they're in the corporate world where I used to be. And I found like I had a bit of disdain while I was talking to them, and almost suggested to them, like, hey, you should quit that salary job where you're doing well and everything's good with you and go be an entrepreneur in something that you don't even necessarily have a talent in, or you don't necessarily even have a business idea. But my brain was saying, hey, that person should be an entrepreneur.
What do you think that is?
Well, I think it's a luxury belief.
You'd be correct. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Josh Cybulski, joined, as always, by Corey Leckie. Corey, you came in fired up today. What's happening?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I wouldn't say fired up, just kind of a realization about something that I do. And then it occurred to me that a lot of people do that same thing.
Yeah, luxury beliefs. It's very introspective of you to come in with that. So let's get into it. Luxury beliefs. It's not really a very old phrase. It's actually a relatively recent phenomenon that people have started to talk about. And for those of you who don't know what a luxury belief is a term that was popularized by a writer by the name of Rob Henderson. And I mean, you could find the internet's littered with quotes, and he's got sections in a book that have to do with what luxury beliefs are. But one of his famous quotes is that luxury beliefs are ideas and opinions that confer status on the upper class while often inflicting costs on the lower class. So to kind of break down what a luxury belief actually is it refers to the ideas or certain values that will function like status symbols among elites. So we're talking about like wealthy, like very wealthy, successful people. And a lot of these beliefs are very expensive to hold, but only for other people. So the entire concept is basically a criticism on how certain ideological stances can harm less privileged people, but they'll signal virtue for wealthy people.
Okay.
So that's basically what the definition of a luxury belief is. Now, just to give you some other quotes from Rob Henderson, who, again, created this. He's a writer and basically the originator of this term. So here's another Henderson quote. In the past, people displayed their social status with luxury goods. Today, they do it with luxury beliefs. And then the last one we'll start off with is affluent people will promote ideas that sound good in theory, but often backfire on those who don't have the resources to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, and I would say like the example that I talked about at the beginning with myself as a business owner, I'm definitely not elite. I wouldn't say that I'm in a lap of luxury or anything. It was almost like the belief I was putting out there was more about thinking that I have some sort of freedom or some sort of like better situation than someone else that's working, just in a 9-to-5 job or whatever. But the reality is that person that's working a 9-to-5 job, they might have set out to do that and they might enjoy it. And maybe they like that they punch in and punch out. And then at the end of the day, they can go and do their hobbies and spend time with their families and do all these things that sometimes I don't get to do. So,
yeah, definitely. I mean, that is sort of what the lure is of working a 9-to-5 is the fact that you do get to have that. Like once it's 5, you're free basically for, I mean, as free as you can be until 9 the next day. And then you're kind of back in there. It's like anything else, right? There's an old quote from, I think it's Thomas Sowell, who says like, there's only trade-offs in life. That's ultimately what you get are trade-offs. There's more to that quote, but I'm kind of paraphrasing it. But life is largely about trade-offs. You're going to make this trade for that trade, and we all have priorities and things that we will opt to put our focus on and maybe put something on the back burner. And that's kind of what you're alluding to here. I do find it interesting that you use that example when it comes to luxury beliefs, like talking about the idea of becoming an entrepreneur, because the core of luxury beliefs does have a huge bearing on things like ambition and hustle, which are major themes of this show, right? That's what
Mm-hmm.
we do talk about quite often is this idea of we are, even though we're, well, 40s, we still have dreams and ambitions that we're trying to hit. And I do think that we're kind of rare in that, like in a rare space when it comes to that, because a lot of people, once they had their kids, once they sort of got into that 9 to 5 job, that's it. They just go on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
And we really did for a while. And then we sort of woke up. We're like, whoa, I got to take control of this thing. And that's sort of getting away from luxury beliefs, but that's my belief about like what we're kind of about.
Yeah. Well, and I guess when I was given that example of that person I was talking to, I'm coming at it from someone who is established in a business for about a decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And forgetting, almost like not even looking back on the struggle that I had to get there, and then suggesting that someone else just jumps into that struggle and like takes the risk and everything like that. But there was definitely pieces to the puzzle that kind of fell in place for me too, right? So, but I
Yeah.
think coming back to the idea of luxury beliefs is those people that are these elites and that are putting out ideas that are affecting kind of the lower class. Um, they're doing it without the realization of how much it affects, or I shouldn't say that. Um, I don't think they necessarily know how much it affects. They're just thinking about themselves.
Yes. I would say the vast majority of them don't know what kind of impact it's actually having, because all they care about is kind of like I said off the top, like signaling virtue. Like, look how great I am. I don't pay any of the
Mm-hmm.
penalties for these things that I'm advocating for, but I'll happily advocate for them. I mean, you can find all kinds of parts of society where this is true, particularly in media, politics, Hollywood, which, I mean, you can lump that in with media as well. Um, so like culturally, socially, they all exist as well. I do actually think that, going to the theme of this show, like the idea of ambition and personal development, personal growth, hustle, whatever you want to call it, there are certain elite circles that have framed ambition as being toxic. And the idea of like striving for something more in your life, they'll frame it as like, oh, that's like capitalistic brainwashing. They'll call it something along those lines, like, oh, you're just trying to be greedy or get rich. But a lot of times, like, it's not so much about money for people. It's more about either like a passion, something that they love, or they just want to build a better life for themselves and their family. But
Mm-hmm.
again, in these you'll find it a lot at like rich American universities where they'll say like, oh, that's just capitalism. You just believe in capitalism. And they're typing it from their MacBook Pro, that costs $4,000, or their iPhone 16 that's, whatever,
Yeah.
$2,000. While they drink
A lot.
a Starbucks, you know, triple shot caramel macchiato, whatever, like some some $9 coffee, and capitalism is stupid. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
that. Yeah,
hypocrisy there for sure.
for sure. And I mean, I would say there's a lot of valid criticism on the whole hustle culture thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like there is the idea. It depends where, like, what you're hustling for. Like I always encourage people, hustle for yourself, whether it's in a 9 to 5 or whether it is like in your own business or your own, like if you're freelancing, whatever it is. Ultimately, your entire hustle should be trying to benefit yourself. You shouldn't be hustling to make someone else rich. And people might think like, oh, that's selfish capitalism, but like ultimately you get one life, and you can impact people's life in a positive way by also making yourself successful and wealthy. Like you can have that impact. I'm not saying like step on everybody to become a success, but try to make yourself the success. Maybe
Yeah.
that's my luxury belief. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think in some ways it is, right?
Yeah,
Like,
probably.
because we're taking it from perspective, like, well, even here's an example. Both of us have wives that have great salaries,
Hmm.
and or good enough salaries, I guess. And so we have that luxury, whereas someone who's single doesn't, right? So someone who's single doesn't. But
Fair
then
enough.
at the same time, maybe that single person doesn't have kids to pay for and stuff. So it's like, we're always looking at it from our subjective perspectives.
Yeah, sure. And like there is a difference though. We're not actually advocating for people to do something. We're just saying like this is probably a better move. It's more like we're more of providing advice and nuance versus like we're not out there protesting for something to happen or like trying to get laws changed or trying to run people's lives in any way. We're just saying like, hey, this is probably better. So I think there is
Yeah.
a difference between the two things. I will say like one of the things that kind of irks me with like just with the whole idea of I don't even know what you'd name it, but the hustle culture is that a lot of people now, a lot of wealthy people are using their luxury belief around that to try to justify disengagement. They're trying to get people disengaged from the idea of like bettering their lives. Like as if you work hard work is stupid. Like that whole thing that you've probably seen a lot of. Like, why are you working
Hmm.
for the man? Blah blah blah. Or even just the idea you see a lot of young wealthy people who like will push things like communism without
Hmm.
even understanding like what communism actually is.
Right.
Um, because it's a privilege that they can afford to push all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, don't work hard. It's like, yeah, well, you don't need to because your dad has money or
Yeah.
your family has money. You come from a long line of money. So it's very easily to push that from an American university where the tuition is 70 grand a year, and you're in a whatever a fraternity or sorority, and you got a Beamer and all the toys, and you spend your summer at your lake house and stuff like that. And you're like, "No, why even work hard?" There is a whole thing around it, and obviously that's a massive luxury belief. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, we definitely see luxury beliefs in kind of a lot of facets. Like, I definitely see it in politics, obviously, like
of course.
making decisions for us that, you know, some career politician or someone who, grew up with a silver spoon gets into politics, and then they're making decisions for people in the lower middle class that they've never had to do themselves. They've never had to do any of the stuff that they're imparting on everyone else to do. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the whole thing around like don't you can't use a plastic straw, but also I'm going to get on this private jet and travel all around the world back and forth over and over and over. And like
right.
it goes beyond politics too. You see Hollywood stars doing it, you see famous musicians doing it. There was a band, I won't name their name, but they would do that type of thing like all the drinks served at our concerts will come in paper cups. And then like on their Instagram, you see them in a private jet flying to their next show, and it's like, come on, like, come on, are you kidding me? That's true though. I mean, that is the whole thing, right? Like you know we're worried about whatever carbon emissions, but only for you, not for us. And
Yeah.
that is kind of the entire idea. But look, this is just around back to the ambition thing, and we could probably move on to another topic with it. But um, if you're somebody who's trying to build a better life because maybe your life wasn't great growing up, maybe you didn't come from a great family or a great set of circumstances, your ambition is really not optional if that's the case. And
Hmm.
if you have this wealthy person with this belief that you don't need to work hard, you're not helping people. You're really not. You're actually like being a hindrance to them if you're telling them not to work hard because they're never going to be anywhere close to a position that you're in. And if you tell that person who's poor or who had a rough go of things, they don't worry about working hard, it's not going to get you anywhere, then that person isn't going to get anywhere, like ever. They're not just going
Hmm.
to, like, there's only so many lottery winners, and there's even fewer that don't end up bankrupt. But
Right.
yeah, just the entire idea of like people who are comfortable sneering at the idea of hustle it's just something that a struggling person can't do.
Now, on the other hand, like you were saying, there was negatives to hustle. So,
Sure, there are.
what are those?
What's the negatives to hustle?
Yeah.
Well, if you hustle and you don't get anywhere, like
Mhm.
hustling for the sake of hustling is not a great thing. Like if anybody can go out and work hard, but if you don't work hard with any direction, it's not going to really get you anywhere. It's the whole idea I brought up in the episode with Emily, right? You can go
Mhm.
dig holes in a field and you're going to work extremely hard. You're going to hustle your ass off, but you're not going to be richer. It's not going to make
Yeah.
you rich digging holes as fast as you can,
Yeah.
right? That there's no billionaire ditch diggers that I know of. If somebody's seen one, please let me know. I'd love to meet them and ask them how they did it, but it doesn't exist. So like hustling just for the sake of hustle isn't necessarily like the greatest thing either, because you can work yourself to exhaustion by doing it. You have
Yeah.
to actually hustle with like a plan. You have to hustle. It's almost like the idea of calculated risk, but in hustle form. Like you have to have calculated work ethic, I suppose. Like calculate, okay, how am I'm going to work, I'm completely willing to work hard, but how am I going to do it in a way where I actually make it worthwhile to do it? Otherwise, I'm just going to become very disillusioned with the idea of work. And I do think there are a lot of people who worked hard and got nowhere and became disillusioned with the idea of work
Mhm.
because they're like, hard work gets you nowhere. I mean, that's the entire corporate culture, right? If you
Yeah.
work in a corporation and you bust your ass, 99% of the time it gets you nowhere. You know this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's how most people feel. And going out into the entrepreneurial world, like in business for yourself, probably the same thing. Like, what did Emily say? 80% of businesses fail or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
working hustle as there, like you work your ass off and your business fails, again, you're going to be disillusioned. So, that's why I say, like,
Right.
hustle does have its negative connotations too. I don't think it's just 100% awesome. I think it's like anything else, shades of gray with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And hustle also usually means that you're spending your spare time working on something. So your spare time could be, time away from family, and it could be time away from other hobbies, and it could be time away from exercise and different things like that. So, so yeah, I mean, hustle can be good and bad. So it's got to be calculated, like you said.
Yeah. And that's something that I try to be really conscious of because I'm obviously in the hustle mindset and trying to do a lot of stuff. But I try to never hustle um, between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. Like that is my time every single day with my kids and my family. Like between 5 and 8, I don't do anything
Mm-hmm.
because I do think that's bad to take time away from like important relationships and commitments in your life that you do have
Yeah.
to work, because that is ultimately like you have such a narrow window with your kids that if you
Yeah.
spend all of it hustling, that's the shit that they're going to remember.
But like you said, there's trade-offs for everything. So that means that you are working from 8 till midnight. So you're not getting the proper amount of sleep.
Oh god, I'm up at 5. I don't even work from 8 to midnight. I
No.
work from no probably 8 to 10:30, I'd say,
Yeah.
and then I go to
Okay.
sleep. I try
That's
to
not
go to
too bad
sleep
then.
before 11. 11 till 10 after 5 is my sleep usually.
Yeah.
So I get my 6 hours or a little bit, 6.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, sleep is kind of the sacrifice for
Yeah.
hustle, but yeah, I mean that's another thing. People sacrifice their health for hustle, right?
Yeah.
I think they're again trade offs, right? There's downside to everything, and too much of something is generally bad. So like I don't know, people talk about like, oh, you should put in a 16, 18-hour day every day if you want to grow something. I don't think that's healthy because you're going to
No.
end up resenting whatever it is you're trying to grow.
In fact, most of the coaches and different people that I talk to, it's a different philosophy now. It's more put in 4 hours of like really, really hard work, like really focused planned out hard work for 4 hours and then take the rest of the day to do, family, exercise, health related stuff. Like, but that 4 hours is like extremely focused. And it can be in increments. It can be like 90-minute increments or whatever. But what they found, there's actually studies out there that most people only work, like, even if you say you're working 8 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, you're actually only working 4 hours.
Yeah.
Because of procrastination, because of like working on the wrong things and all that. That 4 hour is like, if you can get planned and focused 4 hours, you should be good to go.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that 8, people always say that, like, how do you get that much stuff done between like 8 and 10:30 or whatever it ends up being? I get a ton done. I have a 2-hour window in my day where I get a shitload of stuff done. And then the rest of my day, I don't really get a lot done. But that like 2-hour window every day is when I get, the bulk of my writing. If I got to film stuff, I can film it in there. If I need to edit things, I can edit them in there. And 2 hours, people go, oh, that's not a lot of time. It's like over the course of a week, it's 14 hours. Like for a side hustle, it's pretty significant. I mean, I can write fast. I can, come up with things on the spot. So like filming and writing is pretty easy for me.
Yeah. Well, and you and I have found ways to get real efficient on filming and editing, and like, look how much we get done in a couple hours on like a Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah. Just like whatever, one night a week we bang out all the stuff we need to, and it covers a week of social media posts.
Yeah. We usually get like 7-8 videos out in 2 hours.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just us talking and riffing back and forth, being like, well, there's something.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Anyways, outside of luxury.
Yeah. We're off topic.
Well, what a surprise. That is what happens. So another luxury belief that I've really started to notice over like years now, I never could put like a definition to what it is, but I'm sure you've seen this too, but the whole idea of victimhood and using victimhood as a status symbol, that for a lot of people, unfortunately, has become this idea of like they've made it their identity, or it's some form of moral superiority. And that is also, I think, a luxury belief in a lot of cases.
Can you give me an example of that? Where like a victim mentality is a luxury belief?
Do you want like a specific example? I'll give you a good one.
Sure.
Do you know who Joy Reid is?
I don't think so.
She was a commentator on MSNBC.
Okay.
Joy Reid made an entire career making millions and millions of dollars by just going on MSNBC and every single day playing the victim of something. It was her entire identity. And there are so many people in the media that do this. When they're in like the commentary or the cultural media, they will go on and they will play I'll give you another example. Ben Shapiro.
Okay.
Ben Shapiro is the forever victim. These college kids, they come after me on my shows, and that's him. Everything. They come at me, and then I put them down, and then these other people, and you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go there because I'd like to keep the show on YouTube. But he is forever playing the victim. And like you look at it, I mean, shit, even Jordan Peterson is always like, everybody's coming after him, and he's always playing the victim of like, I'm not going to do a Kermit the Frog voice, but for those who know Jordan Peterson, like Jordan Peterson's entire thing, like the upbringing, the thing that got him popular was by telling young men to like be strong and be tough and overcome things and like make your bed and do all these things. And that was Jordan Peterson's entire thing, like when he came up, and that was his entire rise. And now you look at him talk, and largely it's him just being the victim.
Like,
and
yeah,
I think a lot of
the
it
colleges,
like,
psychologists, they took things away from me, and now I got to move to America. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole thing with him going over to Russia and having like a drug addiction and like all these things, like I get it, he's going through some stuff, But
Yeah.
he also is doing, like, him, Shapiro, Joy Reid, all these people in the media, they all are getting themselves rich off in various, like, very different ways, but they
Mm-hmm.
have this moral high ground that they stand on, and they made their entire identity out of being victims of something.
Yeah, and they've all
And
got fuck you money. So
oh, dude, for sure. Yeah, all of them
yeah.
do. And the thing is that, like, we live in a time where social media algorithms absolutely reward this.
Mm-hmm.
Institutions will cater to it, right? Depending on whether it's, like, you can go into politics, go left leaning, right leaning institution. They are both going to cater to whatever it is. And I've just laid out, two opposite ends of the political spectrum, but it does generate, like, sympathy and support for people. And the thing is that this is spilled down to, like, the lower, I don't want to say lower classes, but, like, people who aren't wealthy, like Shapiro and Joy Reid and Jordan Peterson. Like, it's filtered down to people who are flat out poor. And if you are a poor person who is always claiming powerlessness, or you're always a perpetual victim, and this is your identity, then you're never going to climb out of that. You are forever trapped in that. And that, for people who believe, like, yeah, you should feel that, you're putting those people there and leaving them. Like, if you're somebody who looks at them
Mm-hmm.
and be like, you are a victim, like, you are a victim, all you're telling that person is, nope, nothing you can do, you're powerless. And that's a
Yeah.
real luxury belief that people have.
So you're saying these guys or girls or whoever, they're propping themselves up as a victim online to millions of followers, and then those followers that aren't necessarily in their same position are doing the same thing, but they're not reaping the same rewards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, people like that, the wealthy people are encouraging you, like, yeah, you are a victim of whatever, this oppressive something, something.
Yeah. Go stand up and protest. And meanwhile, they're sitting in their mansion and
Yes.
watching it on the news.
Well, I mean, that was the whole thing in all the protests in 2020, right? Go out and
Yeah.
burn the city down, and they're in their gated communities, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And this is the thing. And you could go even further with this, and you could go into, like, dieting, exercise, like, for people who struggle with their weight or etc. Like, there's a whole movement of people being like, no, you should stay that way. Like, you're
Mm-hmm.
400 pounds, like, you should be who you are. Like, that
Yeah.
is a whole movement of people are like, yeah, you're 450 pounds, you should be proud to be who you are. That's not
Yeah.
helping the person by telling them, like, you're basically sentencing them to an early death, because you're saying, like, no, you should stay unhealthy. You shouldn't even try, because you should be proud of who you are. Like,
Yeah.
that's, to me, is really sick. It'd be like having a friend who, I don't know, their life is like a mess, and they're like a shitty person, and you're like, no, you should stay who you are. And that person just goes around and continues to be shitty to everybody. Like, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
if it's like to do with weight or personality or what. Like, I think there is something to be said about being truthful with people. Just, yeah, you're not in a good place. It'd be like, just instead of it being diet and exercise, make it alcohol
Mm-hmm.
or drugs. Like, just imagine, instead of somebody who's consuming, too much food and not exercising enough, you have someone who's consuming too much Coke and too much alcohol. You should be proud of who you are.
And then there's someone up in their high horse saying, "Well, I do coke and I'm good." Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I I found it funny too. Like a lot of those going back to the weight thing, a lot of those actresses and stuff that were and actors that were like, "Oh yeah, you be you," and everything's good with your health and all
Hmm.
that stuff, and like don't let people shame you and all that stuff. They're all on Ozempic now and skinny and they all look great now, but they're not then turning around and saying to people, "Hey, you should, lose weight and get healthy."
Yeah.
Not that being
Yeah.
on Ozempic is getting healthy, by the way. That's
Or
the
looking
bad
good.
way to lose weight or looking
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Or looking good. Yeah. Um, No, that's fair. You could go through a lot of examples of that. I'm pretty certain I know who you're talking about. We don't need to name names. People can read a
I don't
magazine.
even know who I'm talking about. Like Lizzo. I think another thing that I've realized about all these online influencers and, coaches and mentors and different things that I listen to, I don't, what I've come to realize is I don't necessarily want what they have either.
Hmm.
So I don't really want to run multiple businesses with hundreds of employees and all that stuff. Like, I just don't think that that's what I'm cut out for. So I'm listening to people online that are saying, hey, this is what you should do. But, and I've started like trying to make moves towards that. And then I'm like, you know what? No, this isn't even what I want to do. Like, I don't want to be that. So basically, what I'm looking for is a little financial freedom, some flexibility, some hours to myself and to my family, and make enough that I can travel and all that kind of stuff and not have as many worries as I do. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know if you get this, but I get this all the time. People are like, "Oh, you want to be an influencer?" And I'm like, "No." I even had this talk with Amanda the other day when she was kind of like, she's always got questions about what we're trying to do and just trying to wrap her head around what it is that we're trying to do. And I kind of explained to her, I'm like, I don't want this thing to be big. I just want it to be big enough that I can do it. And like, make a decent living at doing the things we want to do and continue to do my writing and stuff like that. I basically want this to free us up from a lot of the grinds that we have in our life. So kind of like what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Um but I don't want to run a massive business. It's just not what I want to do. I'm
Yeah.
the same as you. I just don't see purpose in that for me. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
But if that's your thing, then cool. But thing is I think I said this in an episode or something like that, but like 99.99999% of people don't have what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like you, I'm starting to look at a lot of the people that I was following for like personal development. I'm like, they're not really talking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And so much of what is on social media, even from like wealthier people, is this idea of they're either trying to be like good or progressive or they're trying to be conscious. And I wonder how many of them are actually pushing beliefs that they don't even themselves live.
Yeah.
And maybe it's they're looking for an external validation. Um, or it's like maybe some type of insecurity they have that they're trying to, close up. I have no idea because I don't really actually know any of them.
Yeah, we might be wrong. Maybe we do want all those things. I mean, Dan Martell says,
Yeah,
people
he
tell him all
does.
the time, I don't want to drive, I don't need a Lamborghini or whatever. He's like, yeah, but you've never driven a Lamborghini.
Well,
So,
I'm not saying I don't need a Lamborghini. I'm saying I don't want to run a business with hundreds of employees because I know my personality and I don't want to do that.
yeah.
But that's not to say I don't want to, like, I have nothing. Absolutely. I'd love to make more money, like lots more
Mm-hmm.
money, all the money. I
Yeah.
just, it's trade offs, right? There's not really an amount of money that I'm willing to accept if I have hundreds of employees I got to concern myself with. There's a level of like stress that some people are capable of. The people who do that are capable of handling immense amounts of stress. And I can handle stress pretty well, but not to the same degree that they could.
Yeah.
I don't think. I'm also somewhat risk adverse and stuff like that too, so that plays into it as well.
Yep.
Um, but like ultimately, growth has become. It's always been a commodity. The idea of pushing personal growth and stuff like that. It's always been a market for it. There always will be. But now it's been pushed online because that's where everything is, and it's been made to look like bright colors and beautiful people and stuff like that. But like real growth is ugly. It's not at all glamorous. It's like the grittiest thing. It's honestly like the things that we've done to grow what we're doing is not really something that I would consider to be like Instagram worthy or
Mm-hmm.
something I'd throw. Like the real actual shit that we do. Like somebody said this to me about hockey. They're like, why don't you put more of you like doing your writing? I'm like, because it's just me sitting at a keyboard.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Like when you get down to like the grind of writing or making a podcast, there's nothing exciting or glamorous about it. It's just monotonous tasks over and over that
Mm-hmm.
you do because you love like the wider scope of what you're doing. But like most of the actual growth is just boring and ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I don't know. It comes down to like, do you want to actually live what you believe to be true, or do you just want to tweet what you want the world to think you think is true? One of the things that people do when they espouse luxury beliefs is and we've already kind of touched on this, but oftentimes you're stripping people of their power. So like even
Okay.
though you might be maybe poor or middle class or what have you, there are lots of things you have in your life where you can exhibit power over something, like generally your own life or your own circumstances. So what I mean by that is like if you're broke, you can go work and make money, and you've helped your financial situation. So it's not a huge amount of power, but you do have certain little bits of power over your own life that where you can, make things better. And you can do this in a lot of other ways too. You could make certain sacrifices to make your life better. You can exhibit a degree of patience. You can be disciplined. These are all types of things that you can have that give you power. Like discipline's a massive one.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're telling somebody that, well, I'll give you a good example financially. Like, why would you wait to buy that car? Just buy it now. You can afford it. Just go
Mm-hmm.
buy that car now. Take out a loan, go buy that car. You know what? You deserve the big house. Go out and get your mortgage, get that big house.
Yep.
When you say something like that to somebody, you've stripped them of power. You've stripped them of the patience muscle, right? You're telling them, no, go make this really terrible financial decision. And you
Mm-hmm.
might think you're being nice by saying, like, you go, girl, get that house. And it's like, yikes. Like down the road, you've made their life much more difficult. But you kind of think that you've empowered them. And a lot of times I think wealthier interests or people in better life circumstances think they're actually empowering another person. And it kind of goes back to the thing with weight, right? Like,
Yeah.
no, you deserve to eat all of that. You deserve to eat the entire buffet. You deserve it. You work hard. You deserve it.
Yeah.
You're not
What
really
would
empowering
be
somebody.
Yeah, what would be better is if they gave you actual tangible. It's like, okay, if you want to buy a house, like you need to save. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so here's some ways that you could potentially save. Open a second account and maybe have 10% of your paycheck go into it, or like a little portion, $200, whatever you can afford, have it automatically go and like giving some kind of tangible piece of advice as opposed to just encouraging them to do something that is not great for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and history is littered with moments where a certain group of people thought they were empowering another group, but they actually just buried them in a different way or put them under a different, hierarchy. So I'll give an example without being too specific, but I know you'll be able to read into what I'm saying. This idea of telling a certain group of people, like, no, you shouldn't work all day in this place. You should go out into society and work in this place. That'll be better for you. It will empower you. You'll feel like you have strength, and you'll feel like you're forging your own path, and it'll be better for you. So instead of working in your home, you should work in this cubicle or this factory, and it'll be better for you. You'll feel empowered.
Yeah.
That's a massive luxury belief that, feel however you want to feel about it. That was something that elite wealthy people pushed on the rest of society, and everybody kind of went, yeah, that's sort of true. Yeah, that seems right.
Yeah.
And then everybody went out and did it. And now we look at that and we go, we've kind of reversed the other way. And people are like, man, I wish it was the opposite. Like there's certain people, it's like, I wish I didn't have to go here to this cubicle.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's probably a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, yeah,
I'm
oftentimes you're stripping real empowerment from a person by doing that. This is kind of the opposite side when it comes to like elite wealthy people, but there are certain guilt traps that exist for people too. Because like there are a lot of people who do have money who don't preach and don't tell people you should do this and you should do that. And they don't advocate for other people to live any certain way of life. But those people are kind of made to feel guilty because, oh, you're doing so well. You have
mm,
success, you've got money, you've got prestige, you have talent, whatever it happens to believe. And I don't have money, or not a substantial amount of it anyways. I do have some success at certain things, and I do have certain talents. And I've noticed as like I see other talented people, there are a lot of people who self-sabotage like I have in my life. But I also feel like there's a lot of and I've really noticed this with a few of my friends, there's like this performative guilt that they have
mm-hmm.
because they've got this advantage with their life, and whatever the advantage may be, and they are made to feel as though they shouldn't have it, or
Mm-hmm.
they're undeserving of it. So they kind of go around like, I'm sorry that I'm this, and I know you know what I mean, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry that I'm this, and yeah, I'm very privileged because of this, and the only reason I'm a success is because of this.
Yep.
And oftentimes that's not the case. It's actually like, no, you actually have a gift that was given to you, and that's your privilege. Like you have a skill, or you have a certain intelligence, or, you know, a rare ability to do a thing. And that's actually why you're successful. And it's not because you're in some group. But again, luxury beliefs, there is a whole lot of Joy Reads out there who will tell you that you're only successful because of this, the other thing, if you know
Yeah,
what I mean. Yeah.
definitely know what you mean. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. I find that like that always, you know what? You know who doesn't sit around thinking about that? Poor people or like middle class people.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, oh, cool, your success, good for you. I'm trying to get there. Like they're trying to hustle too to actually get to these places. It's generally like rich people who don't need to worry about like money or mowing the lawn or doing any of that stuff that can sit around and think about these other things.
Yeah, guilt's a crazy thing, eh? I think our generation has a lot of it. Just that, like, even guilt for doing well. Like, we have guilt for not doing well, and then we have guilt for doing well,
Yeah,
which is a
I would say
crazy
so.
thing. Crazy thing to think about.
It is.
That's another thing that like Alex Hormozy talks about a lot is like when he was sleeping on the gym floor, everyone wanted to prop him up and be like, "Go for it, man, do your thing." And then as soon as he got successful, everyone was like, "Look at this too good for us guy walking into the gym as an owner." Right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just it's kind of the way of the world, and you have to just block out all that noise, which is hard.
Yeah. It
Really
is
fucking
hard.
hard.
I mean, yeah, life's hard just in general, but a lot of people in society just want to put everything into every person into like a box. And we
Mm-hmm.
do that with like we're very tribal, and we have our in groups and stuff like that. So everybody kind of wants to put you into like, oh, you're this, so you're with this group, and you're that, so you're with that group. And we kind of try to put everybody, you could call it a box, you could call it a cage, call it a prison, whatever you want to put it.
Yeah.
But everybody's trying to put someone into that. And just to go back to like the idea of empowerment, even like the whole idea of empowerment, that ultimately put people into a box, right? Like you shouldn't work here, you should actually be working there. And then you kind of put people into that box instead of the one they were just in.
Yeah.
And like meanwhile, the whole idea was like, well, you're free now. You're free to go, but really you changed out the box.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. And I don't know. The whole idea of freedom I think about a lot because it really doesn't exist. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody's ever going to be free. And even when you are, like the times in my life when I was the most free, like most free by the definition of free, would be the time where I had probably the most anxiety, certainly the most dependency on substances. I almost felt like this paralysis in my life. Like I don't even know how to describe it. I just sort of felt like a leaf in the wind, just drifting, just wherever the wind took me. Like it would blow me this way, I'd go this way, blow me that way, I'd go that way. And it was also the moment where I probably had the endless choice, like just an endless supply of choices of what I wanted to do with every day, but I had no direction. And it was almost like something like having that power just created a different type of cage.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, but like I had no structure, I had no discipline. I just had this freedom to go kind of do whatever I wanted. And it ended up like creating this massive hardship in my life because I didn't have that. I didn't need to be free. I needed purpose and like a mission and stuff like that. And I had nothing. I don't know.
Yep. I think you and I both feel pretty similar on that one.
Yeah, probably. I want to just go through a couple of quotes here from other people that have to do with luxury beliefs, and then we can wrap up.
Okay.
So I find this quote to be a bit humorous just because of the things going online with this gentleman. But Douglas Murray, who is a journalist, do you know if you're familiar with Douglas Murray? He effectively ended his career a couple months ago in a debate on Joe Rogan. But he has this quote where he says, there's actually two quotes. One of them is, "The luxury of opinions with no cost is a privilege many are unaware they have." Yeah, Douglas, you're unaware that you have it. So I thought that was kind of funny that he has this bit. And then he's got another one where he says, "We can afford to be idealists because we're protected from the consequence of our ideals." Yeah, you are, Dougie, you are. Yeah, I found that to be a little bit humorous, but
yeah, because his whole thing was that Dave Smith was talking about the war in Israel, right? Israel,
yes,
like in Gaza. And he
yeah,
was saying, if
wasn't.
you've never been to Gaza, then you can't talk about it.
Yes.
Right? Is
And
that
Dave
what it
Smith
was?
responded, yeah, and Dave Smith said, "Well, you've never been to World War II, so can you talk about that?" Which is, yeah. I mean, anyways, it's funny to read those quotes. I mean, I don't think Douglas Murray's wrong in what he's saying. It's just funny that he's not,
He's not
heeding his
living
own.
up to his actual quote.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Douglas Murray's a smart guy. I also think he's a liar. So I
Yeah.
think that's the thing, right? Like those quotes make complete sense, but in a vacuum. But you sort of extrapolate them and apply them to kind of his broader worldview, and it becomes very hypocritical.
Yeah. There's a lot of that though in the elite level, right?
Great segue to this next quote.
Like people writing books and stuff about like, bureaucracies and elites and all that, and then they themselves do the exact same things that they wrote in the book.
For sure.
Yeah.
So this leads into the next quote I have, which is, "Elites often make decisions for everyone else that they would never accept for themselves." Thomas Sowell.
Yeah.
It's
and
pretty. Thomas
Sowell, was he like that, or is he?
Oh, you don't know who Thomas Sowell is?
No.
Thomas Sowell's an economist. No. Thomas Sowell was. I mean, he was kind of like an old school conservative, but he certainly talked not very highly of the elites and like a lot of the decision makers and things like that. But yeah, I found that to be very interesting to hear from him. I mean, there's lots of quotes around it. George Orwell has a quote as well, that some ideas are so stupid that only intellectuals believe them, which is a kind of a funny quote. But
that's true.
Yeah. So I want to wrap up with this. And this is something that's kind of interesting with luxury beliefs. And that is, a lot of times people's luxury beliefs exist because they belong to a certain group and they subscribe to that group think. And they fear that going outside of the group think will make them, get expelled from that group. So what they actually do is they lose their ability to think critically because they're afraid of getting judged or canceled or excluded. What do you think of that?
I think we all do it.
Oh, for sure. 100% we all do it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things I don't say depending on the group I'm in.
I would agree with that too. I see it all the time. I've certainly done it. I think everybody has done it at some point. And I also think that if you want to actually grow, and this is something that a lot of people who are leaders and are actually not all necessarily pushing their luxury beliefs onto other people, but I think that if you want to grow and you want to get to the highest level that you can get to, you certainly have to risk being disliked. So maybe the luxury beliefs that your group subscribes to, you're not going to be able to push them. You're going to have to sort of put yourself out of the group or go against the grain or however you want to put it. But if you want to grow, I think you have to find truth, and you have to be able to have some humility and think independently and ultimately have courage to get outside of the group. Because if you are too scared to disagree with people, you're not prepared for what the world's going to throw at you.
Well, thanks again for tuning in to Second Story. Flip the script, write your sequel. See you on the next one.